Good morning and welcome to Manage Your Critic, the community committed to non-judgmental listening. For those who don't know me yet, I'm Cheryl Andrews, I'm the founder, and this is our live Q&A that runs most Fridays when I'm around at about 8 o'clock. So today's theme is all about, is your story worth telling? So what I'd like to do first of all is talk to you about the different kinds of stories they are, which ones are the ones that are really worth telling and how to tell them. And then I want to tell you a little bit of the story myself. I want to give you a little bit of update of what's going on in the step-by-step listening world and give you some insights and a little bit of forewarning of some really exciting things that are coming out in the next few months. Because I know that the way that our critic works, that some of us like to be very spontaneous and might leave it to the next moment, but other people like to have that seed sown so they can plan for the future and make themselves available. So let's get down to business. So today is your story worth telling. The reason this has come about for me is because those of you know I work in partnership with Karen Andrews, we've just got married, Karen Williams from Libertas, and we're currently running the Summer Writing Challenge, which we do every year for the last 4 years. And so authors are working with us to tell their story. And they may be telling stories about their clients, they may be telling their personal story. And so one of the things that can happen when the critic comes in is like, who wants to know this? Is this story got value? And so one of the posts we put in the Manager Critic group this week was favourite movies. And what was the lesson that you learned from there? Someone's just come on live. Please put a comment because it doesn't say who you are right now. So please say hello to me and let me know who you are. It's always lovely to know who is listening in. Johnny, good morning. Love you. I haven't seen you for ages. Hope you're well. So we're talking today about, is your story worth telling? And there's two kinds of stories, in my opinion. This is just my personal perception, and this is what I've watched when I listen to people, is there's a story that we tell to heal, and there's a story that we tell to inspire. And they both have value. The problem is that sometimes we are stuck in the story of healing because we haven't heard it ourselves properly enough, and we've been telling other people in order to hear it, but we get interrupted. Someone tells us, so we might be telling people about our life and what's just happened, how sad we are, and they go, oh, I feel like that too. And instead of it being about us finishing and hearing and experiencing our story, somebody takes it away from us. The attention goes over there to them. And so what happens is we end up keep telling this story over and over. Or it might be that it's quite a complex story. Maybe there's lots of different parts to it, and you haven't got one single person that you can tell the whole story to. So what we tend to do is we might tell our husband about the things we're worried about the children, or our wives. We might talk to colleagues at work about the work stuff. We might talk to our best friend about something else. And what happens is that the story gets split up, and no one person, including yourself, is actually hearing the whole of it. So one of the things about, is your story worth telling? Every story is worth telling. The way that you'll feel better, the way you'll be able to manage your critic, is if we accept there is no negative, there is no positive. We have our negative experiences, so we get angry and we get sad. That's the label we've put as negative. It's an emotion. So we get fearful, we get frustrated, we get disappointed. That's normal. So all the exam results and stuff that came out yesterday, so there will be some students and some parents who are sad about it. And what can happen is we go, right, let's just get on what we're going to do about it. Let's be really positive. And what I want to invite everyone to recognize is it's okay. Now that your children may not want to talk, there might be internal processes, but it's okay for them to give them some time to process the fact that they haven't got what they expected. And if they want to be angry about it, they want to be cheesed off about it, whether they be angry with themselves or angry with the school or angry with you, do you know what? That's part of that story. That's part of the process. But like a good movie, if we watched a movie and it was stuck in anger or violence and disappointment and it was like a bit like my definition of EastEnders, if it was like that all of the time and there was never any joy or any hope or any insight or any learning, it brings our energy levels down. So a story's worth telling, and I call this in the confidence process the chatting with purpose. If you know that you're telling it so that you can listen to it, so that it can be heard and it can be honoured. And there is something magical that happens when you tell somebody something really, terrible. You have to admit that you had the wicked thought, or you have to admit that you're being that negative or that sad, or, I feel a failure or whatever. And someone just smiles and doesn't judge it. They don't judge you, and even don't try and fix it straight away. They just hold that space. So it's important to tell our story. Now, if we tell our story and they smile and they don't judge it and you don't feel any better, then actually what you need is feedback. It's about, you want to know whether other people have experienced a similar thing. Because when we start to recognize that we're not alone, that other people experience similar things, then telling our story and hearing stories from other people that have come from a similar thing can make us go, oh, that's okay. But we can get stuck there. We can start there going, great, we've all got the same sadness, we've all got the same anger, we're all the same frustration. So what happens in between turning it from a story that's one we're telling for healing to one that we're telling to inspire, either inspire ourselves or other people? And what I believe is we embed the learning, we discover the learning. And this is easier said than done. Worst case scenario is you have a bereavement. In that moment, the last thing you want is someone saying, so what's the good thing about that person dying? That's naff. But what will happen, and rightly or wrongly, when that person's gone, so for me, when I lost my mum, it made me really stop and think and really cherish every memory I had, because I could no longer create anymore. So the lesson for me in that, what's the learning? And it did take me a couple of years to learn that, to grieve, and before I could start to learn that lesson. So I told the story quite a lot about the sadness and my anger and frustration. And then when I started looking at what worked, what's my mum's passing given me in that short period of time we had before she passed away, that we learned to listen. We learned to have the courage to have conversations we hadn't had before. We learned to talk about how we really felt. We talked about our jealousy. We talked about our disappointment. So when you learn the lesson quickly, I've just pressed my phone on, I don't want it bleeping. You can then turn it into, you can talk about the sadness. It's heartbreaking that my mum and I didn't get to learn how to communicate with each other until the very last few weeks that she was passing away. But now that I spend time thinking about my childhood, about what worked and what were the lessons that it's taught me, what's those gifts it's given me, now the story that I tell about it is, I will explain the pain, because if I don't express the pain, people would think I didn't understand and I hadn't been there before. But I will be able to also share what it taught me. And a really good movie will have, sadness, it will have hope and joy, but there'll always kind of be a moral to the story. There'll be something you take away from it. So your story is worth telling when you've learnt the lesson. When I say formally telling it, like online or in your marketing material or to your loved ones or in a book, the story becomes easy for people to listen to. It becomes something that's engaging for people to listen to, because they will learn the lesson. But if you haven't learnt the lesson yet, you'll probably just tell them all about the horrible stuff that didn't work, instead of going, okay, so what's this taught me? What have I got out of it? So in the confidence process, I start with a C, which is chatting with purpose. And the E, towards the end of the word confidence, is embed the learning. And so what can happen is we get into the practice of telling all the people about what didn't work and what isn't working. So in our authors group at the moment, I'm just going to give you this video later, it's really easy as an author to go, I haven't written any words, I haven't done this. And that's the story we tell ourselves. But if you actually stop and go, okay, so what am I noticing? What am I learning in this moment? And it might be that actually writing a book isn't just about the writing. Maybe you have been doing your website. I know one of our clients has been doing a website. Maybe one of you's produced a workbook. All of that writing is clarifying the learning from your story. So you may not be physically writing a chapter, but you're preparing yourself, you're setting up for success. And the more you can turn to, okay, so what I'm learning is that writing isn't just about writing, it's about preparation, it's about setting myself up for success, it's doing some writing, then it's about getting some feedback, and then it's about developing it. So actually, I'm not writing right now, but I am doing what's required in order to write. That's the lesson I'm learning. So I want you to think about your stories right now. Hi, Belinda. Good morning. It's lovely to see you here. So I'd love you to share below. What's the story you're telling yourself right now? Is it one for healing? And have you got the right people to listen to you? And the Facebook group here in Manager Critic, I want this to be a place where, do you know what? If you're feeling cheesed off, you can download. You can tell us, because it's heartbreaking when things go wrong, when things aren't working. I remember ringing Parent Line when things weren't going well with my daughter, and I said, I can't believe I'm helping loads of other people, but I can't work out with my own daughter. And he said, well, what do you tell your clients to do? And that gets that conversation going. So I want you to think about your story. It's got value, but chat with purpose. Chat with, am I telling this story because I need personal healing? Because I need the sadness or the hurt or the frustration in me to be heard? And what I will say to you is it's usually better and more effective to tell those stories to people who are not directly involved. If somebody else has hurt you, then you have to structure it accordingly. So you have to say, well, when you did this, this is the story I made up about it. This is the impact it's on me. That's the hurt bit. And then tell them what you'd like to have happen. Because if you just tell them the hurt bit, they'll start telling you about their hurt bit. And then you end up with this hurt bit story kind of competition. Well, you did this and you haven't done that. And so you both try to tell your sad story, but nobody can hear because you haven't broken it down and you haven't got it clear, what it is you want instead. So you're not telling that inspirational story, the solution story, where you go, actually, this is what you've done. It's really impacted me. What I'd like to have happen is for me to be less sensitive to an EV. And I'd like you to be mindful that that does have that impact on me. And if there's anything you can do to make it easier, that would be great, is an example of. So that's all about, is your story worth telling? I know that Johnny and Belinda have fantastic stories. They have fantastic skills. They've got a story definitely worth telling. But I want to tell you about my story now. So we're going to finish with this to let you know. As you know, I'm writing book number 2, which has got a working title of Do, Delegate or Ditch. And it's all about what I discovered, that for many people to tell their story, they had to get clarity of what they wanted to say. And to have confidence in our story, one of the things I work with is people asking them, what's the outcome and intention of telling the story? Because if we're telling the story to make us feel better, we need to be aware that that's what we're doing. But if we're telling the story hoping somebody else will do something different to make us feel better, then we may need to change the story. We might need to change the pronouns. We might need to change the tense of it. We might need to change, the direction of how we put people's attention on the story. So it's being really aware of that. So when I've been working with clients, what I've found is that clarity, once people knew what they wanted, what was the desired outcome, what was the consequences of doing, being, saying, having, whatever they were doing, many people went off and did it really, really well. But lots of people didn't get through to the next level because they didn't understand their own process. They didn't understand how they cope with pain or anger or upset. They don't know how they plan successfully. They don't know how they make decisions. They don't know how they perceive time. So everything, when they were telling their story, it kind of lacked structure. It lacked clarity. It lacked confidence, and it wasn't really clear about what they wanted to change. So then it just becomes a moan. And having done that with clients all over for a number of years now, 30 years motivating people, 10 years running my own company, I then developed the program Do, Delegate or Ditch to deepen people's understanding of themselves, to really understand how they want to work, learn and live at their best, and what is working and what has worked, so that when they want to tell their story, they have a solid foundation and they understand themselves, they understand what works and what doesn't work for them, and then they can develop from there. So I'm writing book number 2 right now, and I just want to put it out to you that in November, what I've discovered over the years, everybody sees January as being the month to plan for 2019. But it's usually too late, because the subconscious mind, you need to set the intention. And November is the best time that I've come across with all of my clients to set intentions for the new year. Because you can, while you're not in the full flow yet of Christmas and you're not bogged down with all that pressure and that time, you've got November to really think about if 2019 was just the way you'd like it to be. And so I'm going to be launching for the very first time, and I'm very excited, my online program, which can be, you can do it virtually on your own at a lower cost. I'm estimating about £47, or you can do it supported where you have a weekly call with me so you get 4 calls, and it'll be £197 for the whole month. And you're going to get access to all of my knowledge that I've got from the Do, Delegate or Ditch book. You can get all the knowledge I've developed over the last 10 years for helping you to plan successfully for a whole year. And if you do the work in November, then it'll sit in the background. You can totally switch off and enjoy your Christmas instead of worrying about what are you going to do, because you'll already know in November what day you're starting back. You know what list of actions you've got to do. You want to know what focus you're going to put your attention on. You'll know exactly what you've got to do. That your brain and your critic will stop telling the story going, oh, I need to think about that in January. You're going to just be there. Have some time with your family. If you're not meeting family, have some time on your own to completely rest and switch off. So that's what I'm running in November. So I want you to know about that. The calls will take place at 8 o'clock in the morning UK time and 6 o'clock in the evening UK time on a Wednesday, starting on the 31st of October. So it's going to take the fear out of planning for 2019. We're going to start on Halloween Day, and then we're going to have a weekly call if you do the upgraded version. So that's my story. That's my little bit of news I want to share with you. Nobody said anything from what I can say here. So I've got some lovely people listening. Thank you for joining me today. I'd like to know, what's your story right now? Are you in a process where you need to share a healing story? Do you need a buddy in the group? Do you need to get onto a Zoom call with somebody here and have someone that will just listen to you without judgment? Or are you in a position where you want to start turning that story that isn't working, it's not giving you the energy, it's not giving you the motivation, it's not giving you the drive, you want to change that story into one that totally and utterly inspires you and other people to do more of what you love and ditch the critic that says you can't. Lots of love. Have an amazing weekend. It's bank holiday here in the UK. Make the most of it. Family matter, your health matter. And but we have to get all of the other ducks in a row sometimes in order to, no, I don't think it's even sometimes. We have to have everything organised in our own mind in order to feel free to switch off and have fun with the people that matter to our success and happiness. All the best. Speak to you soon.